Hello, my name is Corey Morris, and I'm an osteopathic medical student. Tonight, our special guest is Dr. Warren Silberman. Dr. Silberman graduated in 1974 from the College of Osteopathic Medicine and Surgery in Des Moines, Iowa. He is board certified by the osteopathic profession in general internal medicine and aerospace medicine. Dr. Warren has been on active duty with the United States Army and retired from the Oklahoma Air National Guard as a state air surgeon in 2005. He was the manager of the Aerospace Medical Certification at the FAA, was in the private sector as a consultant, then back to the FAA as a medical officer in the Aerospace Medical Education Division. He was the physician in charge of the Occupational Health Clinic at the Civil Aerospace Medical Institute and currently responsible for medical review of all fatal aircraft accidents. Dr. Silberman has lectured internationally. He is a fellow of the American Osteopathic College of Occupational and Preventative Medicine, American Osteopathic College of Internists, Aerospace Medical Association, and Civil Aerospace Medical Association. With that introduction, I am proud to present to you Dr. Warren Silberman. So, can you just describe to us and kind of tell us what is your specialty?
Well, my specialty right now is aerospace medicine. I was general internal medicine and went on active duty. And after much decisions and anguish, I made probably the best decision of my life. And I went from taking care of real sick people to taking care of people that don't want to be sick. So, or if they are sick, they want to get they want to get a waiver so that they can fly. So that's what I do. I take care of pilots. I don't see too many air traffic controllers. Normally, those are done by a medical examiner, an aviation medical examiner who has a contract with the FAA to do their physicals, and I'm not particularly interested in doing that. So right now I'm kind of semi-retired, but I am doing flight physicals, and I help pilots that develop a medical condition to present their case to the FAA for a waiver.
What does your day-to-day work look like?
So pretty much, aerospace, a lot of this stuff is answering email questions, answering questions from airmen that call with questions about their condition. Because most of these guys and a lot of most of the students, the student pilots, the schools don't tell them anything other than that they need a medical certificate in order to fly or actually to solo. So I start by doing my email, and then I normally go into the office and we'll see a couple of pilots. In between that, I might be working a case of a pilot who sent me their medical records, and I'm getting that packet prepped in order to submit to the FAA. That's normally what I do now.
Why or how did you choose or end up in this field of medicine? I know you kind of talked about that a little bit in the start of this kind of interview, but in other words, why aerospace medicine?
I was a busy internist seeing lots of sick patients, taking call, and I read a book. This is way back, probably in the early 90s. The book was called Chicken Hawk, and it was about helicopters in the Vietnam War. And in that book, they discussed flight surgeons. So I got a mimeographed letter. Most people don't even know what mimeographed is, with my name typed on. Dear Dr. Silberman, how would you like to come and join the reserves, the Army Reserves? So I was very busy. And then I was in a practice situation where I wasn't on call. I mean, I'm still busy, but not on call as much as I was. So I had some time, and I went over to the Army Reserve Unit and looked around, met everybody, and everybody was very nice and said, "Oh, let me try this." So I applied and went into the Army Reserves in a combat support hospital. So at that time, I wasn't even thinking about flight medicine or thinking about flying at all. And I was not thrilled with where medicine was going at the time. So I started looking around to go on active duty. And I called up the recruiter, and he set me up an appointment to go interview at Fort Rucker, Alabama, which is the headquarters of Army Aviation. So I went and I met a very nice guy, but it turned out to be the wrong person. But I didn't know that. I met a nice guy who told me about a guy who was also an internist, and that he went and did aerospace, and they said that they would have a spot for me, and that I could do internal medicine and aerospace and aviation medicine, not aerospace at that time, aviation medicine at the same time. I said, that sounds great. So I go back home, and a week later, the recruiter calls and says, all the flight surgeon positions are closed. How would you like to go to such and such a installation, which happened to be Fort McClellan, Alabama, which is about 4 hours north of Fort Rucker. So I said, yeah, but you're going to send me, because I didn't know the military anything. So, yep, you're going to send me to flight surgeon school if I come on. So, so I got orders, and I went to Fort McClellan. I moved. I had a family. I moved, and I left my practice, gave them a short notice, and left practice, and went out to Fort McClellan, Alabama, and it kind of worked out good, because I didn't go to the flight surgeon school until I was there for about 3 months, which is good. I got acclimated, got everybody settled in, and I was, I was a staff internist. And then I went to the flight surgeon class, which was at that time 7 weeks. And I happened to be in one of the last classes that actually got 15 hours of helicopter training. So, and it was a blast. And during the course, matter of fact, it might even have been the first or second day, a guy got up and he told us about the residency. I mean, it sounded interesting, but the board exams were fresh in my mind. I said, am I going to submit myself to another residency and take boards exams? I said, no way, no way. So I went through the course. It was a blast. And then when I went back, there was already a flight surgeon at McClellan. And he was a nice fellow. And so I wasn't the flight surgeon. But what I did was I found out that there's a lot of aviation in Alabama, and there was an Army guard, I think it was guard, I don't remember for sure, unit over in Birmingham, and I was only like about an hour away from Birmingham. So I went over there, and they were very nice to me, and I flew with them. I was going over, it's so long ago, I don't remember, at least once a month when they drilled, and did a bunch of flying. And they started to come over to McClellan, and I did some of their physicals. So after that, I was thinking, I think I'm going to do this residency thing. So I checked it out a little bit more. Turns out that at that time there were only 6 Army slots, and all the Army guys went to the Air Force at Fort Sam at Brooks Air Force Base in San Antonio. So I started to apply, and this was I don't know, like in the this was now we're talking about in the mid 80s, and late to mid 80s, and I applied and I went and I interviewed, and I don't know how many times I interviewed. It was at least 2 or 3 times. And the last time I drove down and interviewed it turns out that the hospital commander, which is normally, of course, in those days it was a doc, he was also the consultant in aviation medicine. And the last time I went down, the guy that was the internist, he sat in on my interview, and the consultant says, "Warren, how would you like to come down here and be the chief of internal medicine?" So I said to myself, well, looks like I'm not going to get the residency again this year. So, but I said, sure. So they pulled some strings, and I got out of McClellan and moved down to Fort Rucker. I think it was around 1988. And I was the head of internal medicine, and I was getting flight pay. I was a flight surgeon. I had a unit that I was taking care of, actually a really neat unit, and I continued to apply for the residency. So matter of fact, the consultant at that time said to me, "Warren, you're a stubborn." I don't remember what he said. You are a persistent dude. So I think I applied for the residency 6 times, accepted to the residency. So that was in 1990. And the residency, I would say, like that, as people will tell people, it was the most fun. Considering a residency, it was the most fun I ever had. And got to do all kinds of things, and met a lot of, there were 14 Air Force and six Army people. So I did a master's in public health at the University of Texas, Houston, but it was a San Antonio extension, so I didn't have to leave San Antonio. And I went from the master's right into the residency to the second year, which was at Brooks, and it was a blast. And then I went back to Fort Rucker. I was then the chief of the medical staff, and for like, I don't know, a bunch of years, and I still got to do, I was still doing aviation medicine, and I still was flying, because once you take the residency, the way it worked at that time is, if you take the residency and you get board certified, you could change your specialty. So I changed my specialty from internal medicine to what's called operational medicine, which was, like I said, the chief of the medical staff, and a lot of other interesting things I could do. So, and then I was away from the internists, and they had no control over where I was assigned. And I became, my assignments would be based on aerospace medicine. And after Fort Rucker, I went and I was the commander of the hospital at Fort Huachuca, where they actually have spy planes there. And I continue to fly, continue to do flight physicals. I wanted to do more aerospace medicine than hospital, let's say, administration. So I I saw an advertisement, and I'm giving you the down, not all the sordid details. So I saw an advertisement in the Aerospace Medicine Journal and they used the acronym, which a lot of people didn't know. Instead of saying the manager of medical certification, they used the acronym. But I knew what the job was, so I said, I think I'm going to apply for this. So I applied for it. I ended up in Oklahoma City in June of 1997, where I became the manager of medical certification. The guy before me, who was the manager for 35 years. So I was the second manager of medical certification at the FAA. So, took them through into the computer age. And, I met I met lots of famous people, got lots of rides and interesting airplanes. And that's where I ended up. That's how I ended up here.
What makes your work interesting, and why would someone want to choose what you do?
Well, first of all, it's totally different than what most people do, because basically you're trying to keep people healthy, okay, which, of course, all docs try to do that, but that's kind of your main thing, and you're using your aerospace knowledge to decide whether someone can fly or not. And you meet lots of interesting people. There's all kinds of things you could get to do, and there's not a lot of positions, but there are there's plenty of businesses. For some reason, of course there's going to be a flood of hiring for pilots. So the people are interesting. It's challenging. A good feeling when you get somebody cleared when they have a medical problem. And of course, I've done lots of lecturing, gone lots of places, traveled internationally. It's a very, very small group, and the fellowship, the people are very, very nice. The people the other doctors are some of the icons in aviation medicine. So I got to meet a lot of interesting folks. So that's what I like about it.
So continuing on, what advice would you give students or residents interested in your field of medicine?
Advice would be to do a general specialty, believe it or not, I have met pediatrics, like general surgery, family practice, general internal medicine. Now, there are aerospace cardiologists, there are aerospace neurologists. So, but I think it's a nice little forte to have, or just go into occupational medicine, to do some sort of basic general specialty and get a basic knowledge before you take this specialty, because it really does give you an advantage. That's my advice to students.
How has the American Osteopathic College of Occupational and Preventative Medicine helped you in your career?
Oh, tremendously. First of all, that's where my board certification is from, the college. I was on the board for about 10 years, giving exams. The college, while being small, is a tight fellowship with a lot of great people, and we really enjoy getting together. The whole thing is, it's a small group, and very friendly, great fellowship. Normally the courses that they put on are very good, interesting speakers. I can't say enough nice things about it. The ASMA, the Aerospace Medical Association, and this and this college are my two favorite organizations.